and get ready to go. Jason, are you ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
Perfect. All good?
Good. Off we go then. Good evening, everyone. Thrilled to welcome you to the November Cloud Management Community event. We have an action-packed, thrilling evening lined up for you tonight. Firstly, we've got Thiago Beier. Probably butchered your name there, Thiago. Sorry about that. For this session on Intune architecture and delegated success. And then to finish off with, we've got an excitement announcement about our community group tonight, which Dean will fill us in on afterwards. So if you can just remember to be respectful during the presentation and put your hand up if you have a question. Thiago says we'll answer them as we're going along, so we'll try and keep an eye on in the chat about those questions. Hopefully be able to answer them for you. That's enough babbling from me. Over to Thiago.
Okay, thank you. Let me just kick this sharing here, because I think it's better sharing the screen and then kick off the presentation in there. Let me go back. I think it's all good from that side.
That's good.
Yeah. Because I just lost the presentation mode. No, they're great. Now it's back. Okay. Here we go. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for just having me. It's been a long heck of a year for me. Last year was working as IT architect for a global company, and I had the pleasure to learn a lot when it comes to enterprise and Intune, delegated access, and all those nuances when it comes to leveraging Microsoft tools not only within Intune but Azure AD, and for hybrid or cloud-based only environments. And I just would like to share what I've learned in the past 2 years, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any questions, just like hey, raise your hand. I think that's going to be better for us to answer the questions as we go. I'm located in Toronto. I've been here for the past 7 years, and I was just refreshing my career when it comes to the cloud and Azure and M365. So I'm really pumped to be here sharing what I've learned with you guys. So with no further ado, let's just go over it. I just planned a little quick agenda for today. I'm going to be going over some device enrollment scenario types I've seen when it comes to enterprise companies, the way we deploy a new device, the way we enroll existing device, and the way we acquire companies, which processes are relevant when it comes to Intune management. And alongside with that, I just want to lay out some sort of device-based management approach. What is the best way to manage device when it comes to device lifecycle, and how delegated architecture works when it comes to managing device within Intune. And I will try to demonstrate some part of the PowerShell script I've been using for automation. And when you get there, I'm going to go over some other details. So when it comes to device enrollment in Intune, majority of the use case we might have, it's brand new device. Somebody else you have your partners, your OEM partners, and then you just acquire a new device, and it's expected that those devices get registered into your Intune tenant, and from there you can manage them. And it can be Windows device, it can be Mac OS device, each one following its prerequisites and guidelines when it comes to autopilot for a Windows device, or ADE for Mac OS through ABM. One of the scenarios I've worked the most for those three that I'm going to be sharing with you guys is when devices are new and purchased by the company, which I used to call they are fully managed. Those devices, from the moment you purchase them and to the moment you ship the device to the user, this device is ready to go. And one of the challenges here is just standardizing the way we register those devices and the way we are going to be segmenting or segregating those devices globally. When you have global companies and you have different locations, I'm going to be sharing that in a bit we're going to be just using some sort of terminology to understand when I have a country code or a country location and either a province location or a city location to make easy the process of the device registration, device enrollment when it comes to the device going to a dynamic device security group, and from there, all the automation tools to give those devices the proper accesses and also access to those who are going to be managing those devices within your Intune tenant. So right after you purchase device for company, device can be shipped to the user. And most of the scenarios, because it's fully managed, user logs in and they complete the setup. So that's going to work either from Windows or Mac OS. You're not going to have any caveats, but as long as we define a solid strategy and foundation within Intune for as well Azure AD. The second scenario that we're going to have here is when the device is not purchased by the company. Those devices got into your Azure AD or into your Intune, even though it's fully managed because they were already there, and you just either enabled auto enrollment within your Active Directory domain services, and those devices got into autopilot. And at some point, those devices can be either those existing device, Windows or Mac OS, in your Active Directory, or device that you just have, you bought it for yourself. It can be BIOD device that you just shifted in and lifted in from a BIOD specific scenario into a company managed or a fully managed scenario. So the device requires most of the times a OS reset. If it's Mac OS, you're going to have to reset the device at some point. Somebody else, and for this scenario, I'm using local IT, is going to register the device either through ABM when it comes to Mac OS, or registering the device hash into Windows Autopilot to the device. Right after that, device can be shipped to the user because the device is already registered, either for Windows or Mac OS process, and user completes the setup. So that's the second scenario we have in there. And if you guys have questions, just let me know because I'm not looking to the team screen, so I won't be able to see if anyone just posting anything in there. The third scenario.
No questions at the moment, Thiago.
Okay, cool. The third scenario I would like to cover is just when you have either new or existing device that are not purchased by the company, they can be partially managed. When we're going to need this type of scenario, when you register the device in Intune through company portal, you can either leverage, it can be also Windows and Mac OS. And I know some companies, they have a lot of acquisition process throughout the year, and they are just acquiring new companies, small companies. It doesn't matter the size of the company. We need to come up with a proper process to either get BIOD device into a partially managed, because I need to make sure those devices will be in compliance, having antivirus, my corporate apps published to them, minimal settings for SSL certificates when it comes to wireless profile, when it comes to accessing services that requires SSL. So we can, at some point, give to all those three scenarios the same device experience. I'm going to be using a lot of device because when it comes to the way we manage those device is the most important piece under part of the Zero Trust architecture from Microsoft. And after we register those devices within Intune, user will be able to complete the setup. It works for Windows or Mac OS. When it comes to Windows, it can be local IT helping those users if that's required, of the company has the capacity for distributed local IT personnel globally, or it can also be a small process sent to the user so they can follow. Go on whatever we can just give them an SOP, a standard operational procedure, and they can go and download the company portal, install the company portal. They go through the registration, they register the device on behalf of themselves, and I will go over it on the next slide showing what would be the differences, because this is why it mentions that there are some limitations, and that's why I would like to go over with you guys. Let me just move something here because I need to look on the other screen. For example, when I mention those three scenarios, let me go get the laser point here. When it comes to the fully managed, the first one, so the goal here is to give all device types, Windows and macOS, the same experience. We want all devices to be registered, either fully managed or partially managed, and we want them to have, at very minimum, all Microsoft apps and Edge browser by default. We can also want to make sure BitLocker, when it comes to disk encryption, is enabled, right? For Windows and macOS, it's going to be BitLocker for Windows and FileVault for macOS. The only caveat is for the partially managed or the BIOD, or sometimes when we are just acquiring companies, we can't. macOS won't allow personally enrolled device FileVault recovery key to be stored in Azure AD. That's one thing, and it's the same for Windows device. When it comes to SSL certificates, we were able to create a framework where all device types were receiving root certificates, sub-CA, subordinate certificates, user certificates, and device certificates to authenticate on wireless profiles, either corp or guest when required. So we were able to deploy the same. And when it comes to central password policy, if you're not using LAPS, local administrator password solution, you would have to come up with Intune built-in features, either through CSP or scripts when it comes to macOS, to make sure we are creating a standard local user, which is the first one that I have here, and also a password policy for those devices. So no matter the device type here, when those devices get hit by the policy, they will have to follow the bare minimum policy you determine. It's going to be renew your password within 90 days, length of the password, the hint for the password. So the same experience across different device types. And the more you standardize the framework to accommodate the fully managed or only new, or the second scenario here, new or existing, or either the partially managed, the better for you. So you can create within Intune compliance policies to track how those devices are reporting, and then you can take actions later then. So I mentioned the Microsoft apps from Intune. This is for all apps that are pushed during autopilot or AZ deployment when device get Apple default profile. But what you can also do in this case, if after the device getting rolled, and if you need to give users applications there are license required, we can leverage access packages through approval process, so users can request Visio or any other type of software that requires either licensing or approval from their management, and they can get it. So this is it's very easy to set up and very useful when it comes to large companies, because you don't have all the time people to go and investigate tickets that could be level 1 or level 2. If you just know that you can implement a process so the managers are aware of who are asking for Visio or any other application that requires license, and they are giving those licenses to those users after the approval. Something that is also standardized across all the scenarios: OS update and upgrade. So we massive tested this type of scenario for either regular updates and upgrades, or feature when it comes to Windows or CVEs, so quality updates. We massive tested processes to make sure whatever device type gets into our tenant and they are going to be managed, they will have the same experience. And we are at some point making sure every device is protected right off the bat. You're enrolling in autopilot, you get antivirus. You're doing the same for Apple macOS device, you're having the same experience in there. I mentioned Wi-Fi profile previously because it's somehow dependent on SSL certificates. VPN client, if you're using hybrid Azure AD join or Entra, what is the new name? Entra hybrid join, right? I don't remember. They change the name every day. And then the experience is going to be the same. So you need to deploy the VPN client throughout during autopilot process to make sure users can wrap the process. So for Windows is fine. For macOS, you can push the same VPN client to those macOS devices, even though they are not required to doing the enrollment as for Windows device. antivirus, I experienced so many different types of managing different products and features. And when it comes to either Defender or any other antivirus, name it CrowdStrike or Rep7, some other products from the market, you can give to those devices the same experience. One thing that I'm going to talk a lot on the next slides is when we determine the device naming convention to make sure this device belongs to whatever either company or business unit or location, we need to standardize and make sure this framework will fit all needs. And what I mean from that is the device has a name, and that name reminds me device location or company that is attached to that device, and also order ID when it comes to Windows Autopilot. So those devices will get that specific order ID, and from there I know that I can also leverage ScopeTags with the same code, or I called country code, local code, CCLC, because then we can have the same 4-digit code for every device type in every aspect of your businesses. One thing we learned from specific antivirus solutions from the market, a lot of those new solutions, they support group tagging as well when it comes to applying policies, and we can leverage the same framework for 4-digit code to be used all over the place, and we can set them up right off the bat during the device enrollment. So there's going to be for macOS a shell script that will detect the device name from the profile and set that country code, local code to the antivirus grouping tag in order to the device receive the proper policy based on the business that device belongs to. So sometimes it seems complex, but the more you dedicate time understanding a framework naming convention for device, the better for your management when it comes to enterprise. Or I'm talking a lot about enterprise, but not only enterprise, because it just makes your work and processes clear to follow. There are some caveats for some of those scenarios. When I want a fully managed device, sometimes for large companies in an enterprise, we require, some companies, they have local IT on the different locations, and we cannot leverage them for automatic enrollment. We don't need them. We just buy device, as I mentioned, we ship to the user finishes the process. So it's not required on this fully managed scenario, but there are some caveats when it comes to having a fully managed that is a new or existing device, because at some point when device gets it as a fully managed new or existing, this device will be in the position as a fully managed, because we are going to be enrolling those devices, either resting the device hash for my Windows device or running the Apple configurator tool to register the macOS device into ABM, the Apple Business Manager, and from there associating those devices to an MDM so they can get a default profile to be managed from Intune. So all this process, when it comes to requiring or not local IT, we can give those users for local IT the privilege and the delegated access to do whatever they need, even within ABM, from roles within ABM, or combined delegated roles between Intune and ABM, which is not supported for partially managed, because there is no need to do that when it comes to the IoT device or acquisition. Most what I've seen when it comes to acquisition is somebody else is managing their macOS device using Jamf, and then at some point we will need to unregister those devices from the previous MDM and then register them into Intune. And I'm really happy because of the past 2 months, I've seen a lot of improvement on these migration processes when it comes from Microsoft. Is just making this process better for whatever type of size company, because there's a lot of IT processes involved and it consumes a lot of time, right? Planning, testing, validating. So when it comes to this type of scenario, we can give to any type of device the same streamlined experience for applications, SSL certificates, delegated, because once those devices are proper into their device dynamic security groups, delegated personnel will be able to manage them right off the bat going to Intune portal. And as I mentioned, partially managed, at some point after they are fully registered and enrolled, they become fully managed. Next time you need to redeploy those devices, you don't need to use Apple Configurator 2 anymore. Those devices, when it comes to macOS, they will be already registered into Intune. And for all the autopilot device, Windows autopilot device, at some point, depending on the process here for the acquisition, after acquisition is finished, this device gets removed from previous tenant and is now enrolled on your current tenant, the target tenant. You'll no longer need to be rerunning or re-registering this device hardware hash into Intune because it's already there, unless you have some gotcha and the device is not responding. And sometimes previously we need to go on the Apple Microsoft Store and remove those devices from there. I haven't seen this happening in the past few months since I've been deploying a bunch of 1,000 devices on just 1,000 surfaces, Microsoft Surface across different businesses. So that's so far my experience when it comes to those 3 types of scenario to simplify any device type registration, enrollment, and management within Intune. I'm just gonna pause because I want to make sure you can follow up with that. It's a lot of information. The next slide, I'm going to get into the part that I was mentioning before. And this is what I was telling you. Before I get into this slide, let me just go over here. Just want to pause real quick before I go into that slide. So if you have whatever company, you have our local AD, your ADDS infrastructure, that's how I came up with the idea for the country code and location code. So specific device in Canada on the province of Ontario, and whatever you have for that OU, you're gonna have users or either device, or we also standardize ways to give users, because when you have hybrid scenario, a lot of heavy work is done by local IT, and we also need to make sure they have delegated access within those OU. So the more you go deep, the more complex it becomes, because we delegated access to OU based on global groups, for example, and users who are OU admins. So all users that are local IT supposed to manage AD objects for Canada, Ontario, they have a specific group, and this group is able to manage group membership, reset user password within local AD. And how do we port over them to, when it comes to hybrid, to Azure AD? So the same idea is giving ourselves as Intune managers or IT managers capacity to just move from this scenario to a scenario that we manage in the cloud, which is going to be Azure AD administrative units. So we can leverage that in there to segregate the same country code and location code in there. And when we do that, we can also have cloud-based security groups with members, either they're synced from local AD or cloud-based only users, if that's the case, when it comes the case. If companies are at some point planning to demote hybrid, I don't know how enterprise companies or when they will be able to do this, because it's really high, complex thing to be done when it comes to enterprise companies. But at the end of the day, we're going to have this structure. So I know that CA Ontario, CAON, is going to be the prefix for all my devices. And when you go there, this is how we were just thinking of how the scenario could fit any type of company. For example, you're going to have your vendor, and by default, when vendor registers a device in Intune, Windows Intune Autopilot, what happens? Most of the device, I don't know how, if in Europe is the same, but In North America, most of the device, they come with the order ID, the group tag as empty. So which facilitates our administration. We either pick, all device, which we need to determine which majority of our device is going to be either Azure AD joined or hybrid AD joined. When we get this decision made, so we need to make sure, okay, if all devices that are coming from OEM, they come with our group tag as blank, they will be hybrid. So if this fits 90% or more, so you be in a good shape to make sure, okay, I don't need to have a lot of work around hybrid, but I need to have some work around Azure AD joined. So you need to pick which device type will give you more work to do and streamline the process from end to end. If the OEM is the part that is going to have to work a lot, then you need to come up with a plan where this CCLC code that we are just trying to leverage here will fit all your business. So a device will get a group tag for CCLC. What I do practically, I give all devices 2 country codes, location codes. Why I do that? One is the one that is given to local IT to manage their own device, so they only see their own device under Azure AD administrative units, because we moved those devices through automation to there. And when they log in into Intune.Microsoft.com, this IT tech user from Canada, Ontario, you will only be able to see its own device for their own location. So they can do whatever. They can rename the device. They can target applications. They can either create applications within Intune and target to those devices. And they can also leverage a general application list only to assign to their own device if that's required. That's why it's so complex when it comes to hybrid environment. So the top of the screen is all about Windows device. So we are giving the same experience. It doesn't matter if the device comes from OEM or from vendor. Nope, go back. It can be Windows from OEM or from vendor. We need to pick the better profile that's going to fit the majority of the device types you're going to have. So I have majority of my macOS device, they will be automatically deployed. So I go with this option. Oh no, maybe it's different. I need a lot of them falling under custom profile. So we need to pick and make the decision before you can transcribe this framework to your real environment. And that's why when it comes to whatever device type, every device gets 2 CCLC codes. One is for the local IT, and the second one is for the global IT team. So they can oversee all devices. They can recover keys for file vault or BitLocker from all devices. But when it comes to that specific location, I use it from Canada, Ontario, or US, Florida. We will only be able to retrieve their own device, BitLocker key or file vault. So after the device gets into the security group from the registration and have the Windows Autopilot profile assigned, and they can go through ESP experience and then Autopilot itself, their automation does the other part. Automation identifies how many users are coming from that specific AD, OU. So when it comes to Azure administrative units, I'm going to move all those users to that Azure AD AU. I'm going to also link all device to that specific Azure AD AU. I do the same for groups, and I standardize Intune admins security group based on the CCLC code for each location, company, or businesses. So giving local IT users the capacity, and that's where the delegated access will come to play to do whatever they need within Intune. I'm just going over there right now because I think is a lot to talk about it, but it's easy to show.
While you're doing that, Thiago, there is a question.
Okay.
I'll raise it. It's by Anton. So because Entra ID is a flat architecture, we leverage administrative units in Entra ID to replicate that segregation of management of objects in OUs in ADDS. Entra hybrid join devices. So it's question mark. So basically, I think they're saying that, is this okay? Is that what you're suggesting is a good idea?
Let me just to think about it. Let me go back to the chat again. Oh yeah, okay. I got it. So the better way to replicate the same OU structure is leveraging Azure AD administrative units. That's why I would like to give you guys this detail. What is it? Entra. Gone. I had it open. Okay, no problem. So the challenge when we do this, it's because every time you create remember, I continue to use the C counting code, location code everywhere. So this is the same code which is prefix for a device. So my device has a prefix of CCLC. This is also the name of the Azure AD AU. Within Intune, it is also the scope tag name. And for security group, it is also the prefix for all, how do I say? All the Intune admins group, security group, which is used to give local IT users access to their own device. So when we do this, and there's a caveat in Azure administrative units, if you pick any one of those and go on properties, I'm not using dynamic. When I try to use dynamic, you can either pick a one, right? You can either pick a dynamic for user or device. We cannot mix them. So when it comes to OU, one single OU, you can have all different type of objects. But when it comes to Azure AD AU, becomes complex. I've seen another project once, someone was using the same name, the same CCLC, but underlying users, underlying device, because they broke down into the dynamic association membership. I don't like to do that because I can leverage automation. I was using either Puppet or Jenkins to go over the user's device and groups and bring them here. So if I find a user which belongs to that CCLC in OU, in AD, I bring the user to that AU. I will do the same for groups, and I will do the same for device. And if the way I'm using the automation for this demo that I'm showing on the screen, I picked every device from that group. If a device belongs to my CCLC, let me just, if I have any device as a member of my CCLC, my Canada Ontario device groups, then bring this device to that AU. That's how automation is playing that. It can run every 30 minutes, depending on the load of device that you deploy within your company. Enterprise companies, they have device being deployed, redeployed. So very often, so every 30 minutes is fine. A job in Jenkins, keep running, watching over, and alerting you. I've seen people using Azure Functions as well, and Azure Logic apps to do the same. There's advantages and disadvantages in each one of them. We were leveraging Jenkins because we were running Jenkins as a VM, which was also domain joined to the same domain that is on premise. And when we do that, we have we can just connect to all other different servers and services using the same UPN from the local domain. That's the how you do it. We can either have a standalone Jenkins server on your Azure subscription with all the credentials set up properly, going anywhere. So this is how complex it is when it comes to management. The secret about showing everything that you guys can see on the screen is just the automation who does that. The only work we need to do is determining which is going to be my CCLC code and how am I able to leverage those 4 digits. It can be 3 or 5, whatever fits your business. How can I leverage this type of framework to any type of device association, device membership, OU naming convention, Azure AD AU. So when you go here, scope tags, when automation runs, I have a new OU. If you see that structure on AD that I showed before, I have CA Ontario, CA Quebec, CA British Columbia. So if a new BC, if I can identify a new 4-digit CCLC within my AD root, then I know there's something new coming, a new business that has been created, and I go create the Azure AD AU, I create the scope tags. I create all the groups. There are dynamic membership within the cloud. They're all 100% of this work when it comes to automation. It's cloud-based group. We only use the synced groups from local AD when we don't want to make huge changes on membership. And even though if we need, I just create cloud-based groups and feed them with the same membership from the synced, because at some point some companies will decommission their local AD, or they want to go 100% cloud-based. We can shut down. We can just remove and disable users at some point, or keep the users only for authentication, so Entra ID can leverage and continue to protect them. But when it comes to groups and device, we move straight to cloud. We go from hybrid to Azure AD join. We go from using Azure, local AD synced groups to cloud groups. That's how we created this framework to work towards enterprise businesses. And while I'm already here, so when it comes to scope tags, what we do, we create the scope tag. So we create the scope tag, whatever, 4-digit code, and we also create the US, the same 4-digit code device group. So every device on this group will be flagged with this scope tag. So when you go on the Windows device in Intune, I hope it's working now because earlier wasn't. So you pick the device that was renamed. I joined this device this morning. I renamed the device at some point, but when I go on the device, so it has only one scope tag. And it's the one that is supposed to be, because we associated that 4-digit code to that specific scope tag who carries the same 4-digit CCLC code all over the place. So we're good. Using this alongside with the all roles, we'll give local IT access to manage whatever they need. So when we create a new role within Intune, what we've done here, I created one delegated Intune admin roles, which means all local IT, global, distributed, will have their own CCLC Intune admins group, security group. They will be member of this group, and they will manage their own, only their own device. So we create a role. Within the role, we have the properties, right? So we give whatever access we want to give to them. We start off, everyone has read access, we train them. After we train those local IT, we start giving them the next step. Oh, now you can assign applications, and now you can create your own applications. I think the beauty of the leveraging delegated Intune admins here, or endpoint manager roles within Intune, is when it comes to assignment, I can have multiple assignments here. So the same properties will fall for all Quebec, Ontario Intune admins when it comes to manage their own device. And scope tag also follows their own business code. So that's how we isolate and also delegate access to them. So if a user, where is it? Here, I have two users. I have Raul, which is, I think, is in Ontario, and I have another user, whoops, Christy, I think she's Quebec. So Raul can see the zip, unzip application is not assigned to any group, but he can see edit. When he goes on edit and try to assign, if he tries to assign to, let me just make sure if he's on Ontario or, okay, he's Ontario. So go back there. If I try to assign to Quebec, so I want this user, he's a local IT admin who's supposed to have only access to Ontario device. I'm gonna give this guy, okay, I'm gonna assign this application. I call this general application, everyone can see it, but I can only assign. It's like global IT creates a bunch of applications, and they add the scope tag for each business unit within that application so other people can see it, but they can only assign. They cannot add it, they cannot delete it, but they can assign. If I try to assign this and save, I can't. You don't have permissions as Ontario local IT user to assign application to device that belong to other business unit. That's how we make sure no one is crossing other businesses and they can only manage their own device. But if I go on this application, again, edit, and then I target my own group, CA, Canada, Ontario device. Application saved. So at some point, my users will get application assigned to them. And that should work the same for this user if the user will have access to it. And how do we do it? Let me go back here. You go to applications and you have all your applications in there. The best way to do, I would say, think of all applications a company can have globally. All device should have core applications: Microsoft Office, PDF reader, antivirus go straight from automatic deployment. But all the applications, I can just create them. And when we create those applications, I'm not going to use Edge because Edge is not going to do what I want. I can go on Firefox. So this application has default, but I'm not using default for anything in this company. So, okay, I would like to make sure this application goes to Ontario and Florida, but I'm not assigning. I'm just allowing local IT users to see them. So when we save here, sometimes it takes 15 to 30 minutes to replicate. When we save it, those users, either the users from Quebec or Ontario, they will see the application showing up for them in Intune. And that's how they can do only what they are allowed to do. They can only assign the application. So that's how it works, how far you can go. If you need anything different than that, you need to go on the properties within the admin roles within Intune and then give them the proper access they need to do. So when it comes to least privilege access, always start with read-only, develop the training for the users. The local IT will become familiar using the tool, and then you can give them more access because they will need to learn how to package. Oh, if you need to package Win32 application, give them the procedure to follow, but they can do by themselves, and they just create the application, and they can only target to their own device. If I would have given them the option to add or create application, even when they create application, they cannot assign to a different business. They can only assign to their own business. What happens at the end of the day, global IT on the other screen, Mozilla Firefox will show up here, but I don't know for the other user. Maybe I did something wrong on the setting. What happens is, if local IT users start creating applications there on their screen, you're gonna see them all here. So how do we standardize it? We ask them to follow the same. When you create an application, add your country code, location code. So if you're creating whatever, I don't like to grab, I'm going to use any application here, WhatsApp, for example. But I think WhatsApp should be a global application. They can only see WhatsApp and they target or not. But if that could be a Win32 application, you name it, CC, Canada, Ontario, application 01, app 01, then I would ask them, always use a prefix or whatever, so we can identify you created this application, and if we need to update, upgrade, or terminate the process for this application, we can do that leveraging Azure Logic Apps, because there are other automation behind the scenes to report on people. Hey, you created applications here, but you haven't targeted applications to none of your device. Do you still need it? So how do we keep the process and Intune clean? Because at some point, people will create whatever, and we lost control, right? So basically, this is how we try to use the same concept for the CCLC group everywhere. Any question there? I'm seeing popping up. Yeah, global IT can see all applications because people are creating, and they can also create all applications here and only assign those applications to anyone they want. It's business-based. Someone needs Acrobat. Someone needs, you name it, CorelDRAW, whatever. So I can package for them if I see on a business need for global, for a different business to install the same application. That's why we create a form for people, so people can ask for application whatever. When we see the same application name, then the forms goes to a list, SharePoint list. We can track, oh, a lot of people are asking this application. Let's make it global. Or we start seeing a lot of business creating the same application with their country code, local code. That's when we make a decision to communicate and then for now on, we are giving this application is global. You just ask to be assigned, and they don't need to be spending time working on application deployment, because I've trained in local IT when we were doing that using what is the name of the tool? PowerShell deployment, PDAST, and some PowerShell built-in PowerShells from install and install standardize it for all of them when it comes to Windows 32 application. Some functions that they need to use to come up with the CCLC code. So we help them to have those functions ready to go on PowerShell on a SharePoint library, so they can leverage this for their own benefit. So that's how, from end to end, we try to make sure Intune administration is being done. And that's why when you see this, it seems complex, but when it comes to the daily basics activities, we just need to make sure which is the best way to identify my device, keep them compliant, and making sure from the time a device is created or imported into my tenant, from the time the device needs to be removed, deleted, wiped, or if they get stolen, you're going to have process to identify quickly and lock down those devices or the user accounts. So this is how it works from end to end. Let me see what I have next. Here. Okay, this is quick. This is just showing what I showed on the screen on the Windows. So you're gonna have a standard within local ID. Your local ID have CCLC OU admins, all the users, each OU has the same, the groups and the device. So all of those objects at some point, what I do when it comes to enterprise business, I create groups that are cloud-based, and some people think, oh, it's overwhelming work for management. But when it comes to one day I'm going to be shutting down the hybrid scenario, some companies, they do it. So I already have all the cloud-based security groups that I use it either to associate its membership to Azure AD use when it comes to users, when it comes to groups, when it comes to device, and what I do with those devices. So at some point, those devices, we have custom rules where IT admins, they are members, but the device itself receive the assignment. So we create the framework, we can apply anywhere. It doesn't matter. It's always be the same. Let me go back to where it was this. I need to show everyone one more thing when it comes to the automation that I mentioned before. If you are not cloud device administrator, you cannot read BitLocker key or file vault. So the same group is all over the place. The same country code, location code. Intune admins, they are also given the role as cloud device administrator in every AU. If it's not given in the AU level, you cannot read the BitLocker key within the Intune portal. That's a caveat when you bundle Azure AD AU with Intune delegated access. So you need to be aware of this. But automation handles that. How do we handle that? I can only show this. So this huge script that I have different regions, it goes to Jenkins. So if I need to, I'm going to run just a part of it. So region 0, I call the one who creates the directory every day. So it's going to be my working directory, is this one here. How I retrieve my CCLC code, I grab whatever, every OU I know that has a group called Windows 11 Upgrade, and from this, I can grab the 4-digit codes and do my magic. So I know when a new OU is created because of this. So every time the script runs, it knows, oh, all CCLC codes, it will check one is new, then I can do whatever. I can go and create the Azure AD AU, the ScopeTags, the security groups using the same convention. Another, okay, create Azure AD AU, for example. This is how it should look like. Let me see if I can create a new one. So I have 3 here. I think I have Texas. Let's see what happens. So I created on my local AD, US, Florida has Windows 11 group. What is the other one? New Jersey. Also have this group. So every time I found this group, I can use my logic and tells me, oh, those doesn't exist. I need to create. And that's how you're gonna see them being created. So the same, and also the permission that's gonna be given for the cloud device administrator. At some point, let me, same for create all CCLC into admin. So that's gonna be the same. What is the most important one? Scope tags. So identify and create all scope tags. And for this one, I'm leveraging MS Graph. I had to learn last night because they changed a lot of stuff. So I can track everything on the logs. Oh, those 3 are going to be created. So if I go there on the scope tags, if I can find it, rows, here, you see, they got created. I haven't tested yet because it's been 3 months since I stopped playing with that. If there's a way after we create, we can assign the groups. I know the new PowerShell module for MS Graph has a beta module that probably supports associating or working on the assignments, and it's the same for roles. I haven't seen anything close to be able to fully automate the assignment part. As soon as I find it, I'm gonna share it. But this is how far we can go with the fully automated part. And for this part, we were doing manually. So when the automation finishes, there's a Teams channel where people see, hey, this is a new CCLC code created. Please go and add the assignment for delegating to an admin's role. That's how we track everything in there. Let's go back there.
So Thiago, there is a question from Patrick. If we assign a group with all users and devices in the scope tag, will a person with that scope tag be able to add a new group, e.g. for testing?
Scope tags are meant to be for device. So if you add device on the scope tag, only the device will be flagged by the scope tag. If you need to go on the user, okay, what I've seen before, I don't know if that's gonna help you. What I've seen before, I think Anton, because I know Anton, he was playing with this once. We talked about it once. Actually, it's not here. Okay, I got lost. 1 second. Because we cannot assign. No, scope tags won't affect anything on user unless you are trying to use extension attributes from user. Is supported when they are synced to Azure AD, but device are not supported. If you have a device in Azure AD and you give a device extension attribute, then you can associate something related to the CCLC code. So I can go on each device and leverage extension attribute and make sure this device also have the same CCLC code, but there's no correlation with the scope tags at all. It's just for us from a management perspective to make sure we can track either a device or a user when it comes to reporting or making sure. Sometimes people move users from location. Think about a business who is in Florida and in London. Oh, now Florida office is shut down. We are moving everyone from Florida to London on the OU level. And because it needs to reflect on the Azure AD AU, that's where the complexity kicks in. We need to make a way to correlate those. I would leverage extension attribute for a device and something for the users to make sure, oh, why I have a user who's in OU, the CCLC code it still reflects the old OU and not the new one. So we could have better monitoring tools and alerts and whatever, so people can move and do cleanup at some point. But it doesn't affect anything when it comes to scope tags. Scope tags on that part is only for device. Right here. Is that clear?
Yeah, thanks, Theo.
Another problem. If you have, no problem, just a tip. You have 3 groups with the same prefix, and you add those 3 groups in there for whatever reason. What we do basically, I'm showing Windows, but what we do for enterprise is one single group, one CCLC-device. All Windows and macOS device are there. All Windows and macOS device will get the same scope tag. So facilitates anyone management. And even if you use the same group for application targeting, if the application is only a Microsoft application, only goes to a Windows device. And if you're targeting for Apple, it goes to macOS device. So this is how smart Intune is when it comes to assigning applications to a single group where its members are either Windows or macOS. So you don't need to have a bunch of groups. You can leverage filters. Oh, those are macOS. Those are whatever. So you start using all the piece of Intune rather than 10 groups because I need 10 different types of OS to narrow down my filter or whatever. Use filter. Don't bring that complexity into the dynamic security groups. Use for your own benefit. Let me see if there is anything. So when it comes to the groups, those groups are all assigned. Those groups have no special requirements unless Intune admins, you need to set an option. Those groups can be assigned to roles can be assigned to those groups. This is why we can use the same group CCLC Intune admins for the Azure AD AU's cloud device administrator role. Otherwise, you cannot assign this group on that role. It's not supported. That's why for that specific scenario, we always create those groups with this option set to yes. I think that's pretty much everything. Let me see what I have next. Oh, this is how, if anyone follow my blog, whatever I've talked about macOS here, I really learned from Dean, from his YouTube channel. But when it comes to autopilot hash, I had a lot of work around this last year, trying to always being lazy. I created a way to leverage PPKG for Windows Configuration Designer, having Azure AD application register, giving the proper access to import device hash into Windows Autopilot device through PowerShell. It's silently. You can publish the PPKG, somebody else can go on the SharePoint, download and run on the device, because the second scenario that I explained for existing device or the acquisition part. We can also leverage for all acquisition device Windows 32 application as onboarding phase, and you have everything there. Detects existing antivirus, publish your company antivirus, do some tweaks on the registry keys so you can understand this device is on phase 1 or phase 2 of the onboarding. So you can bring up your onboarding process into the tool. Azure AD AU, PowerShell also automation is there. We create functions to work on the CCLC code, and we distribute it internally within the company so people are okay. We try to print the CLC code everywhere as we can when it comes to hybrid, because there's a lot of work on a hybrid scenario, so we can keep tracking device. People rest and unrest the device, change name, but if the device is still on the same Azure AD OU, you can still track it. I'm about to publish a PowerShell gallery for Azure AD Cleanup, identifies which device is supposed to be hybrid Azure AD joined, but I don't know if you guys are familiar. Sometimes we get the device as registered pending, and every time a device is registered in Intune on the hash, it creates an Azure AD object. And when you run the hybrid Azure AD join process through Autopilot, it creates the second object in Azure AD, and the second object, which is the one who comes from local AD, they are supposed to at some point to merge. and to be managed by Intune. MDM should show it as Intune. When that doesn't happen, only the object that is cloud only is being managed, but not the one that you have all the history from hybrid, from the local AD. Then you have this misconfiguration can cause a lot of issues, because if you manage part of the application deployment, Windows upgrade, for example, when it goes from Windows 10 to 11, it's going to fail, because you are using some companies still use the synced groups on the applications or features updates. They're not using the cloud-based because we are on the stage of moving things to cloud. And the hybrid object only belongs to the group that is synced from AD. So all those issues, I was able to create a PowerShell a script who detects and gives you an Excel CSV. Oh, this device is found on that CCLC code. You're supposed to be on that OU, but only the object ID from the Azure AD join object is being managed, not the hybrid. So we have a fully easy report to work with, and then delegate. Oh, all those devices for location A, give to the local IT for that specific business unit so they can go and fix it. Another advantage of the PPKG, if you have a USB stick, copy one PPKG for that specific business location. They just go on the device, existing device, reset OS, and use the PPKG. You just auto-rest the device, silently restart the device when the device gets a Windows Autopilot deployment profile assigned. Next time the device restart, welcome to your company. So you fully automate some other process to make your work easy. You're not dumping all the process on the local IT. They have some work, but it's going to be mostly automated at some point. I also leverage the same concept here for AVDs and Cloud PC. And AVDs landing on the local AD, and we were able to port it over and auto-enroll them within Intune, as well Cloud PC the way it is, but we leverage also PowerShell script for provisioning policy one-to-one device. There are some caveats around it, but they all land in Intune. So the management, the delegation part, it will always be the same. It's the same all over the place, as long as you follow the same CCLC naming convention, I would say. Let me see. That's it. Thank you. If you have any more questions, I'm here to try to answer them. And I lost Teams screen.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks, Ed. That was great. Thank you very much indeed. There was one other question in the chat.
I'm just reading that right now. What happens to the device sync with user in case we need to delete that particular user ID? Nothing happens with the user. Actually, with the device, right? The user is irrelevant when it comes to the device. The user ID will continue to be the user ID. Are you referring to user to the primary user assigned to the device? Oh, let me show you something really quick. I think this is interesting. When we go here, device, enroll device, and device. We tried two different ways to make our life easier. Sometimes when we know who is being hired and which device is going to where, we had Azure function with logic apps going here and assigning the user. So, and also, if you need to, you can give the device a name, right? So if you click here, so you can give the device a name right off the bat. Instead of the random name that's going to get from the Windows Autopilot deployment profile, you can do this as well. Instead of getting Autopilot -default from the offline domain join profile, we can determine whatever device name you want for this. And then when the user turns on the device and just syncs to the Azure AD tenant, oh, this is your device name, welcome user. So they go straight to the password part during the device registration process. So you can facilitate the local IT work when it comes to that point. Sometimes people don't like to do it because they think it's extra work, but we just had a Azure AD application and logic apps behind the scenes doing this for us, because we know sometimes when it comes to acquisition, we are replacing the device, brand new device, 100 device to 100 new users. So we know how to do it. So it's better for them to give them a streamlined experience. Sometimes that's what we do. But when it comes to the device life cycle, you are removing a device. When you delete a device, because it's hybrid, you need to delete on local AD, and then after the sync will be deleted from here, and also you can delete from Intune because it's Windows Autopilot device. First, you need to go there and delete from Windows Autopilot. Otherwise, you cannot get rid of the device. Or what we're doing when a device user leaves the company or device is stolen, we flag the group tag to go to a specific group for reporting purpose. That's what we were doing at some point, and goes to a Windows deployment Autopilot profile that does anything. Every time they turn on that device, welcome to our company, nothing works, lock it down, whatever, if the device gets stolen. Because we also care about security.
That's great. Thanks very much, Thiago. Thank you. That was awesome. There was one question where someone mentioned about the slides that you were going through. Are they on your blog site, or can you make them available?
Oh yeah, I think somebody else already posted. Let me just type here, HTTPS. The blog is there. I'm gonna share the deck. I'm gonna save the, just give me a minute. I need to upload this to the GitHub. Okay, give me a second. I'm just gonna push the slide to the GitHub and share. Just give me a couple minutes.
Yeah, no problems.
By the way, thank you everyone. Thank you for having me. It's always great because a lot of what I share here today, I've learned from some of you guys. So it's really cool. The power that we have from the community, it really changed the way we see processes. And I think majority of us talks about digital transformation. It's about processes, about people, it's about technology. So I think when we find a better way to bring all of this together, we always just evolve the way we deliver projects, we learn as individuals, and we work better as a team. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. Thanks very much.
We did have a hand raised at one point. Might have been someone just doing a high five maybe, but someone did raise their hand. So any more questions, please drop them into chat. Cool. Okay. Good. Thank you very much for your time. One more announcement before we close, if I can. So that was a great session, and we want to do more of these, and we want to do many more of these in the future. So just to touch on something, we've been the cloud management community for quite a while now, probably over a year, maybe a year and a half, and we've grown a huge amount since we started, with the YouTube channel and this group, which we try to do every month. We had a little break, but we try to do every month, and we had some great speakers over the years. That said, we like what other user groups are doing in Europe. So, for example, the Workplace Ninjas, for example, over in Switzerland. So the Workplace Ninjas Summit, for example, and the over 15 country-specific user groups across Europe and the world now, with Australia coming in from the Workplace Ninjas user group. So as of today, we're updating our branding, we're updating our name to Workplace Ninjas User Group UK, which will look something like that. Still working on the branding, but we get great support from that team over in Switzerland. So thank you to those. So we are updating our look and feel and name. There's nothing you need to do. We'll be updating the user group, the meetup group name and URL. So you can just go to the same, well, you'll be in the same group. You won't need to change that, but we're just going to update the name. I think I already have done, so that might have changed for you already. We'll also keep the YouTube channel as the Cloud Management Community, because there's many implications and branding and stuff on there. So we'll leave that as it is for now, at least. But we'll still live stream to it like we have today. Also, we do know that a lot of you attending aren't from the UK, and that's absolutely fine, including our speaker. The UK isn't about excluding people or saying that we only want UK people to attend, or it's country specific in any real way. We just want to show where we're based and where we'll be hosting live events in the future, and where we'll be hosting in-person events in the future as well. And that's something else we want to come to, because this rebranding will also allow us to do in-person groups, hybrid groups, as well as the online ones that we do every month. So that's what we'll be looking at from 2024 and beyond. There's a lot to do. We've already started the rebranding. We've been doing a lot of stuff in the background since the last month or so. But yeah, that's where we're at. Andy, any thoughts? Anything else?
Yeah, just to add to that, you know, this is really about us evolving. Thanks to you guys kind of supporting us, and us being able to share kind of knowledge in the community, as Thiago's already mentioned. There's a great power in that. So this is us evolving, and basically we're not changing. We're going to be adding more content rather than less. So that's good news for everyone. There'll still be live streams. This is really about opening up that Workplace Ninja community that's already there. There basically wasn't there was a kind of a gap in the market, so to speak, in the UK, and we're just plugging that gap, and hopefully the content we bring will be useful to everyone. So yeah, thanks very much for your help, basically, because you've helped us kind of get to that point.
Yeah, I should say as well, if you are in the UK and you would like to help run the Workplace Ninjas UK user group, please do reach out to us. We welcome more support. Certainly from the organising side of things, it does take quite a lot of work, even more when we start doing things in person. So please do reach out if you're interested in helping out. Jason, thank you for doing the introduction. Anything to add today?
No, it's a great presentation. Really enjoyed that presentation. The digging into that tomorrow. Yeah, but yeah, the Workplace Ninja stuff's really exciting as well. As a newbie to the group, it's really exciting to get stuck in at an early time.
Awesome. Good. Well, yes, thank you so much for the presentation today. It has gone live on YouTube, so it'll be available on YouTube once it's processed. To give it a few hours, be available on YouTube. And yeah, I think that might be it from us today. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.